welcome you guys to Geo Galleries and thank you for doing the interview because I know it's time and just thankful that you guys are willing to share your experience as artists and the stories that you have behind your art. With that, I'm going to let you guys introduce yourselves and give a little bit of background where you guys are from, and that way we can get to know you just a little bit better.
Okay, I'm Chuck Miller. Uh, this is my husband, Scott Cooley, and we are Wayne Addington Images. It's a mashup of our other names. That's where the Wayne Addington's from because we work together. I do the art and Scott runs the business. So I was born in Atlanta in 1951. And 50 years ago today, I was in my 5th week of basic training in the Air Force. I was 19. 4 months later, I landed in Rome and on to Brindisi, Italy to serve in the Air Force for the next 3.5 years. And my brother-in-law sent me off with a camera. So by June of 1971, I was in Venice taking photos, and I kept those slides. They were all on slide film. I traveled all over Europe for 4 years, and I kept the slides. And I think it was 20 years ago.
I think that's about right.
I took those slides out of a box, and they were pretty much ruined. I'd never printed one. Okay, so a few years later, I almost survived the dot-com bust in California, lost my job. I got pretty sick. And by 2006, I didn't have a job and I didn't feel very well. So I bought Photoshop Elements and put it on my laptop and started trying to restore those slides. And that turned out to be pretty futile, but about 2 years later, I discovered that I could manipulate the photos, and I started learning about Photoshop layers. That was in 2010. I think I printed my first print, and as of yesterday, or as of the first of the year, I have over 2,000 saved images now. And that sort of is my little story.
And I'm, as Chuck says, I'm Scott Cooley. We met 38 years ago and have been on this journey together. I collaborate with trying to work with people like you, Melissa, and the other people that we meet and try and share our art with. It's really Chuck's art, but it's ours because we have such a long history together, and both of us work together to take the source photos that then Chuck takes and creates these wonderful visions, and I get to enjoy. If you could see all around us, you can see a few behind us. One, for example, right behind me is an example of one of those early pieces that Chuck took when he was in Italy, because that's a little vision of a small town called Alberobella. And the room is full of it. When I was just telling him, I sit in my desk and I don't have a window. There's a window behind me, but I don't have a window to look out. But on the wall opposite me I'm looking at a wall filled with large canvases. Thank you to Finer Works from Venice and Florence and Pisa. I'm looking at Pisa. It's just, I have a great time enjoying his art. So it's been a fun journey.
So you had your military career there, Chuck. So it sounds like that's kind of your catapult into photography, correct?
Exactly. I think I always liked to color, okay? Even at 5 years old. But the camera, and then living in Italy for 3.5 years was, it was just the perfect opportunity to see the things you wanted to photograph. The photos he looks at, the Leaning Tower of Pisa, I climbed when I was 20 years old. I was in Venice at 21. I drove my car from southern Italy to St. Andrews, Scotland, and back one summer. So yeah, it was inspiring. And it was sort of great for a kid from Georgia. You know, I got like sort of 1 week I was there, and then the next week I was gone. Photography for me was the ticket to try to become a better photographer, because I now have on my computer over there, I have over 90,000 photos that, well, the two of us have taken in the last 10 years.
Yeah.
You're bound to get better.
Yeah.
I find my memories or sometimes muddled. So that lends to the way I mix images together. I don't know. I remember that I saw a beautiful church and that there was a hamburger stand, and I will just put them back together. It also works out quite well if you have a small wall space, because you can have all the scenes from a place in one little print.
How did you guys meet to become this, collaboration here?
Uh, I have a son,
Uh-huh.
and I had been divorced for about a year, and I was scheduled to keep my son that weekend. And so those plans changed because my ex-wife decided she would borrow my car and take my son on the weekend trip if I would take her pickup truck. She wanted to carry friends.
Mm-hmm.
So I took her pickup truck, and I had a free night. And a friend called and said, "Do you want to go to dinner? Some friends are getting together." And I went to dinner, and Scott was with a friend of my friends. And we had dinner, and we went to the comedy club in San Jose, California. Yep. And we went out dancing. And, well, let's see.
The rest is
Scott
history.
and I have not really spent very much time apart in the last 38 years since that very night.
And how did you guys realize? I mean, there's couples that, come together, but it's usually like the art is the one person's thing and the other person has it. When did y'all kind of discover that this was also not only a relationship, but a creative partnership as well?
Well, I was certainly not doing any art at the time. I was trying to be a newly divorced father, and I was working in Silicon Valley. I was in the computer business, but it was way on the opposite end of computers to where I am now. So after we managed to raise our son through college, and he went off on his own, I needed something to do, as I said earlier. And so I just started making the art. And it was only then that Scott was getting ready to retire. And after he retired, I had made over 500 pieces of art. So really the business itself is 4 years old, because he was retiring, and we had what we thought was something that people might want to see. So that's when we put the business plan together and did it. I had gone from in the Silicon Valley. I started out as an electronics assembler, and the last job that I had was a president of a software business that we sold in the .com to people who didn't have any money. So okay, that's the way that went. All right. So Scott and I burned stock certificates in our grill. And we cried a day or so, and then we went on. He kept working, and I found a new life. My art career is 16 years old. Started it really and earnestly after I was 50 years old.
And little by little, we surrounded ourselves with other people's art. And when Chuck found Photoshop and started trying to retrieve his own photos, and then discovered that he could create new things with his own work and our work, it was pretty exciting. So I feel like I live in an art gallery. It's pretty swell.
I know. I love it. I know you guys have on GeoGalleries, and it's been digital. It's been what, about 4 years? Is that when your digital work started going into a physical medium, like a print?
I would say no, more like about 7 or 8 years ago. I had done a few prints in Oakland, and then we moved. And right after we moved, we went into downtown Durham to get a print framed, and made a lifelong friend. She's actually sort of like our adopted daughter now. She owns a gallery downtown, and she's been selling my prints since 2013.
Mm,
Durham is not a large place, and so that ranges from 2 to 4 pieces a year.
mhm,
No,
We, well, we linked up with the Durham Art Guild.
mhm.
business manager.
Yeah, we linked up with the Durham Art Guild, and they have competitions and they have spaces that they exhibit. And I turned to Chuck one day and said, "Do you want to put some art in for a competition?" They have a very nice space in a building on just inside Chapel Hill. And so he said, "Yeah, let's do it."
That was 2016.
That,
Yeah.
and so we actually we printed a bunch of art. They were all canvases at that time. We hadn't really done much paper, and so these were really large format canvases. One was 40 by 60, I think. So some very large, some medium. Yeah, larger than anything that's here around me. And we won that competition. So we were able to exhibit a lot of pieces and sold a couple of pieces in that competition. So that's kind of where we started. We've done a couple of exhibits, one small one in Raleigh. I mean, and then of course, at the beginning of this year, all of that came to a crashing halt. So no exhibits, no shows, nothing. We did do an interesting evaluation of Chuck's art in a photo workshop where they had experts, and you actually, it's the reverse of where you're trying to sell your art. We went and we had an opportunity to talk with, I think maybe about six. Yeah, we had about 6 experts in the field of photography that we met with in a range of aesthetics, I guess you could say, that went from someone saying to us, "Well, this isn't even photography," to which we knew. It starts with a photograph, is what I usually say. It starts with a photograph. And then on to people who went, "Wow, this is really cool." One person looked at a piece that Chuck has done, and it's in our gallery on Geo Galleries, of the stairwell of the lighthouse in just north of Duck, North Carolina. It's a beautiful abstract. We call it Time Tunnel 2. It's a really pretty piece. And the guy looked and he says, "You have no idea how many pictures I've seen of this staircase," because it's a great spot to take a photo. And he says, "This is the best interpretation he'd ever seen of it."
He's also the person who told me
that it's not photography.
That it was not photography. But then he specializes in selling black and white prints. Yeah. So I could understand, where he was coming from. But so,
what have you seen evolved in doing the process?
Well, when I started the digital, let's start with Photoshop, because I bought Photoshop Elements. That was 2006. I loaded it on my laptop, and I would sit for, I made a decision that I was going to try every day to learn, because I don't do school well, never did. I have to learn on my own. So I would open the laptop and I would spend about 30 minutes and I would just slam it shut. That went on for 4 years. And in 2010, I saved an image. Okay. Really, it took 4 years. And that image is hanging downstairs, and it's basically a picture of the agriculture building in Washington, D.C. with a Photoshop filter on top of it. And I proudly showed it to my son, and he goes, "Well, you used the blah, blah, blah filter." And I'm like, he goes, "That's good, Dad, but you need to learn more." And 2 years later, I was working with 2 layers. In 2016, I made over 400 pieces of art that year. So I think 2006 to 2016, it took me really 10 years to learn the tool. And in between, I was making interesting things. And then in 2016, I started to be able to produce more and better. And now, I'm good with Photoshop now. I don't know what other people do with it, but I've restored a few of my slides finally, some of the better ones. I managed to really make look nice last year. One from San Marino and one in London, which is really, really beautiful. I mean, you can read the Soylent Green ad from the movie, and Angela Lansbury was in a play in London that year, and you can read it in the slide now. So I think that's good.
Yeah.
We were really GeoGalleries is really an example of an opportunity for us to really sell our art. We have virtual art, so we should take advantage of a virtual opportunity to sell it. So this concept of not having a physical inventory, not preparing for an unknown demand, not letting things be damaged, responding quickly to what people's desire and need is for art, maybe customizing because they have something that they want that's special for their spot. Maybe they want something that's super big, or they want something that's tight and in close. They want it on paper or canvas. Those are all the things now that we can do, particularly with Chuck and his style of art. We can really kind of go with what someone's desire is in terms of what they want for their environment.
Yeah.
Well, we wouldn't have a business because there was no way that I could really afford to buy the equipment. Right. It's really basic, so in today's world, it's so economically good for everyone. You have an investment in equipment that I can't make, and hopefully I have some art that you can't find.
Special thanks to Chuck and Scott for doing this interview. We appreciate it. Join us every first Friday where we interview another photographer or artist from GeoGalleries. Support them with a like or a great comment below. We'll see you next month. Have a great day.